All right, so we all know the dinosaurs met a rather sudden end, but what happened next?
Right.
You sent over these excerpts from The Dawn of Mammals.
Yeah.
And honestly, after reading them, I'm kind of obsessed with this whole underdog story of how mammals took over.
Well, it's interesting, to really appreciate how mammals rose to the top, you kind of have to go back to before the asteroid.
Okay.
Because it's easy to just think of dinosaurs as this like dominant force ruling over everything, which they were.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Try telling a T-Rex to scoot over.
Exactly. But those mammals were there the whole time. So to really understand how big of a deal their rise was, we need to picture what they were like back then.
Okay, so paint me a picture. What did the mammals' world look like?
So picture this. You've got these tiny, mostly nocturnal creatures living in a world that's, well, designed for giants.
Yeah, the excerpts compared them to tenants in a dinosaur's world. Which, I gotta say, is a perfect way to put it. But it's also kind of misleading in a way, right? Because it's not like they were just waiting around for that lease to expire. They were evolving like crazy that whole time.
You've got it. And that's what's so key here. For millions of years, while the dinosaurs were, doing their thing, mammals weren't just sitting around twiddling their thumbs or whatever.
Right.
They were diversifying. They were adapting to all these different environments. And without even knowing it, they were developing the very traits that would make them the ultimate inheritors.
So it wasn't just a fluke. It's like they were already on the path to success, even back then.
Exactly. It's like they were in training, honing their skills for this moment that no one, not even they, could have predicted.
They were ready for their time to shine.
Yeah.
I mean, the asteroid kind of puts a stop to the dinosaurs' reign, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, you could say that. Though reign might be an understatement when you think about it.
Sure.
I mean, picture this. You've got an asteroid bigger than Mount Everest slamming into Earth.
And it's bye-bye dinos.
Pretty much. Though it wasn't just the impact itself, right?
What do you mean?
Well, think about the after effects.
Yeah.
Tsunamis, wildfires that probably burned for like years, volcanic eruptions blocking out the sun.
It's hard to even imagine the scale of the destruction.
Imagine everything just gone, like poof. All those plants, animals, the dinosaurs, obviously.
So yeah, like we were saying, not a great time to be a dinosaur.
Right. But it wasn't just them. It's estimated that nearly 75% of all plant and animal species on Earth vanished during that time.
Wow. 75%. That's insane.
It's like hitting the reset button on the whole planet.
So it's kind of a blank slate, a totally new beginning.
Exactly. And this time, mammals were in the perfect position to take advantage of it.
So what did they have that gave them the edge? I mean, they weren't the only ones who made it through, right?
That's right. But they had this like secret weapon almost.
Okay, spill the tea. What was it?
Warm-bloodedness.
You mean being able to regulate their own body temperature?
Exactly. See, with all the chaos after the asteroid hit, temperatures were probably fluctuating wildly. And that's a big deal for survival.
So I'm guessing that didn't go so well for our cold-blooded friends.
Nope, not so much. The excerpts actually talked about this.
Oh, really?
While those cold-blooded reptiles were, struggling to adjust, mammals could just keep on going, hunting, adapting, thriving, no matter what the weather threw at them.
Like they were born for it.
Exactly. It was a massive advantage in a world that was still trying to figure itself out.
That's incredible. So warm-bloodedness, check.
Right.
What else? I mean, there had to be other things that helped them take over, right? It couldn't just be about who could stay warm the best.
Oh, for sure. But this next one, it's kind of a big deal. It's how they raise their young.
Oh, that's right. The excerpts mentioned something about that. It's like mammals were these super involved parents.
Right. Milk, nurturing, teaching survival skills. It wasn't just laying a bunch of eggs and hoping for the best.
Talk about different parenting styles.
Totally. And in this new world where resources were scarce and the environment was still, pretty messed up, it was more important than ever to give your offspring a fighting chance.
So it's like all that care and attention actually paid off for them in the long run. They were investing in the future.
And then there's, the whole brain thing.
Oh, right. The intelligence factor.
The excerpts mentioned mammals already had bigger brains than other animals, even before the dinosaurs went extinct. But with primates...
That's where things really get interesting.
Exactly. Those larger brains allowed for some serious mental capacity. They were smarter, better problem solvers, and maybe most importantly, they were able to form more complex social structures.
Which is kind of a big deal for us humans, right? I mean, we're still trying to figure out this whole social thing.
Tell me about it. But seriously, those early mammals, they were way ahead of the curve. They were setting the stage for well, everything that came after.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it. Like, our whole world today is built on the success of these little furry creatures that were just trying to survive. And they didn't waste any time either, right? The excerpts mentioned how quickly mammals diversified after the asteroid.
It's actually pretty incredible. In just a few million years, which is like nothing in geological time, mammals went from these tiny shrew-like creatures to, well, just look around, woolly mammoths, giant sloths.
Wait, are whales considered mammals? Because that blows my mind.
They are, and that's just it, isn't it? Every single mammal alive today, from a tiny little bumblebee bat to a massive blue whale, is here because of what happened after that asteroid hit. It's like this incredible family reunion, millions of years in the making.
Okay, I love that analogy. A mammalian family reunion. But speaking of family, there's one branch of that family tree we haven't even touched on yet. The one with humans at the end of it.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
And that brings us to us, right? Or at least to our very, very distant relatives.
Yeah.
We're talking primates. 50 million years ago, these guys were starting to make their mark.
That's right. And it's fascinating to see how these early primates, mostly still living in trees, started to develop these, well, key features that would eventually lead to us.
Like opposable thumbs. I mean, can you imagine life without them? No way I'm giving up my phone scrolling abilities.
Exactly. It's huge. Think about it. These grasping hands with opposable thumbs and, way more dexterity than anything else at the time, they were a game changer.
Makes sense. Being able to swing through trees, grab food, all that.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about getting around. It was about manipulating their environment. Those hands were tools, paving the way for even more complex tool use down the line.
So we owe our tool-obsessed society to those early tree dwellers. It's all starting to come together now.
You got it. But it wasn't just about manual dexterity.
Right.
Wow.
Brain power. The excerpts mention something about primates evolving larger brains.
Absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting. So mammals in general, they were already developing larger brains compared to other animals, even before the asteroid. But with primates, this trend, it really took off.
So they were like the brainiacs of the bunch.
Pretty much. Those larger brains meant greater intelligence, right? Better problem-solving skills, more complex social interactions, the whole package.
Something tells me those complex social interactions haven't gotten any less complicated over the last 50 million years.
You can say that again. But really, think about it. Those early primates were laying the groundwork for the kinds of social structures that would define our species. It's amazing.
It really is. But those early primates, they weren't just going to stay up in the trees forever, were they?
Nope. Eventually, they started venturing down, exploring new territories, adapting to life on the ground.
And that's a whole other chapter in the story of us, right? The evolution of those ground-dwelling primates into, well, us.
Exactly. But that's a story for another deep dive.
I'm already looking forward to it. But before we go, I want to loop back to something we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Why does any of this matter? I mean, it's a fascinating story, don't get me wrong, but why should we care about what a bunch of furry little creatures were doing millions of years ago?
Because it's not just their story, it's our story too. Understanding how mammals went from, like, these tiny underdogs to the dominant life forms on Earth, including us, it gives us a whole new perspective on, well, everything.
Okay, so what are the key takeaways here? What should we be remembering from all of this?
I think the biggest one is the power of adaptation. Mammals, they didn't just luck out when the dinosaurs went extinct. They had the traits, the adaptability, the resourcefulness to survive and thrive in a world that had completely changed.
So it's like sometimes change, even when it seems bad, can lead to some pretty incredible things.
Exactly. The other thing I think is so important to remember is that everything is connected. The extinction of the dinosaurs, as awful as it was, paved the way for mammals to take over.
It makes you wonder what the dinosaurs would think if they could see us now, ruling the planet they once called home.
I don't even want to imagine what they'd say. But on that note, I'll leave you with this thought. Next time you see a squirrel, just a regular squirrel, take a moment and think about those early primates. Think about that incredible journey that led from them to us. It's a legacy worth remembering.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time.